you guys, this is Erico and I am back on your computer screens once again. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. This story was the funniest, most saddest thing I've ever seen, ever read, ever witnessed in my life. This Russian man ended up on a survival singing program. It was inspired by the South Korean program. You know, they build a boy band, basically 11 members, and he was bored working behind the scenes. He was helping two contestants that were Japanese. He was basically their translator. He was also a teacher, part-time model, but he was very introverted. So he got bored being on this artificial island. That's where they filmed the show. And he said, you know what? I'm very introverted. I don't like to model. I don't like to do anything. So I'm just going to go and be on the show. Producers saw him and they said, you should be on the show. His friend who owns an entertainment company said, you should be on the show. So he signed the contract. And then he come to find out that he might have been under the impression that he was going to be on the show for like one round. And then they would eliminate him. Can't sing, can't dance. Has no real personality, honestly.
比如说，
教他一些实用的，不能在这里用的。
我要请假，我要请假，
我要你教的是什么东西？
我很累。
But no, he ends up, wait for it, staying in this show for weeks. He becomes a household name, endorsements, millions of followers, people supporting him, continuously voting for him. Why? Because he has the look, he's white. Also, he has this grumpy demeanor where he's like, I just don't want to be on the show anymore. I'm pretty sure he was in the back crying most of the time. He had to go through all that rigorous training with all these other contestants that actually want to be there. You can look at the footage and see that his heart was not in it and he was forced to go through it. He constantly, week after week after week, begged them to send him home, and they wouldn't. He ended up going all the way to the final round. There are people in this competition that actually want to be there, that actually are taking this seriously, and he's taking up somebody's spot. There are people in the past that were on there who were actually China's people. They might have been mixed race, mixed with African, per se, that didn't get half the fans that he got, that were actually good at dancing and singing, had the look, had the persona. But meanwhile, they put all of their faith and love in this one man who doesn't want any of it. You should have seen how fast he ran to the airport to go home to Russia after it was all over. He was so happy. He was saying to the judges, give him Fs. And he said that stands for freedom. And you know, we have Amber from FX that was on this season. She actually went along with the stupidity and allowed him to stay on the show. I never watched the show. I don't know how it works. But this man was begging them to send him home. And they let it go on for week after week after week. There was the Chinese public that had a lot to say about him. Saying, well, you know, we love him because he's like this icon. He represents young people in China. I don't know how he represents people in China, but let's say he's a part of the generation that goes against the grain. But that was the excuse that they were giving. Fans mobbed him as he tried to go home. This shows you, me, you, anybody, that certain people have privileges, whether it's looks, whether it's in race, to have a platform, and they can be the most untalented person you ever want to meet. Now, I'm not sending hate his way. Lelush, he's a guy who didn't think things through, and it's not his fault. He's a good-looking guy. I would never take that away from him because he is. I can see him being a model either in Russia or wherever he wants to go. He has the look. But as far as being a musician, that was not for him. I don't think it was fair to other people who wanted a spot on that show, and they allowed him to stay on that show for weeks at a time. It got to the point that it wasn't funny. Russia was starting a hashtag saying to send the poor boy home. 27 years old, wasted his life doing something he didn't want to do. Meanwhile, there are people that really want to do that. He had to go through all that training. I know that there were contestants on that show that probably did not like him behind the scenes because they probably like, well, why are you here?
继续往第二志愿。嗨嗨嗨嗨，
够了！文案因为我，他看出了我，李老师在看我，李老师来不及了！哎呦，你，
Like, you get to be here because you're white and you're good looking. Meanwhile, we have to work 100 times harder to get the routine right, to sing right. You can look at the footage. His heart was not in a lot of what they were doing, the songs, the performance. He looked good. He would look good in a group as a foreigner. But meanwhile, I'm listening to all of the other contestants that are with him singing and dancing. There were some boys up there that were singing their hearts out, dancing their hearts out, because they really are taking this seriously. They've given up everything to be there. But meanwhile, they're in a society where looks trumps talent. To make this guy somewhat of a joke and a meme, and for them to think that's funny to keep it going, I don't think that that's feasible. I don't think that it makes any type of common sense. So I'm happy that he's free now. I'm happy he gets to go. I know he's run for the hills. Hopefully this will all pass over. I won't say he didn't get his share of hate, because he did. There were people saying that it was a publicity stunt and that, you know, he was just a random white foreigner. Mind you, there were other white foreigners on the show, but none of them was as good looking as him. So, you know, I think they call him like the competition plant. Oh my goodness, it's sad. It's sad that he was used like he was. It's sad that the Chinese public ate that up, and that he had to constantly ask to go home and they weren't trying to send him home. You guys, how do you feel about this story? How do you feel about him being free? How do you feel about privileges? Put all of it below. Follow my social media, mostly my Instagram. I also have a blog on East Asian pop culture. The link is always down in the description box below. And remember, be real, stay real, live in the real, and I will be back. I love you guys.